Before we start the video, a big thank you to Paradox, who has so kindly both given me early access to the Charters of Commerce DLC and in fact paid me to make this video. That's right, this is a sponsored video. A friendly reminder that Charters of Commerce for Victoria 3 is coming out right now, and you can buy it as we speak, and that if you're looking to try the game out but don't want to drop the money on it, there's a free weekend from June 19th to June 23rd where you can play the game for free. Very cool. Thank you, Paradox. Now, onto the video. When you imagine the perfect society, what comes to mind? Maybe liberty, equality, and brotherhood, or a society with purpose. Maybe you imagine a place where no one has to work, or another world with different rules and different priorities. Well, allow me to give you a glimpse into one such world where life is good and the people lead great lives. A world filled with purpose. This is the United States of America. Not the current one, that's a hellscape, but instead, one where a particular invention came to define the very way of life. The Colt revolver. This is a place where everyone has a revolver, and where the craftsmanship on these beautiful beasts is the pride and joy of the nation. There are no defining values in this America, except the pursuit of the perfect revolver. But why do these Americans need all these revolvers? It's a good question, and it's because alongside the proliferation of the Colt revolver, an American expedition to Sindh has led to perhaps the greatest drug trade known to history. The Indus feeds the people of America through its lush, pure opium farms, and yet there's just never enough of the stuff. In the more lawless regions of this nation, a Colt is as valuable as the drug itself, given how convincing 6 rounds can be. Join me in today's video, where we'll be creating an American utopia through the power of guns, drugs, and steel. The story of ascendancy on the way today is one with a humble start. America finds herself isolated from Europe with nearly limitless land to the west and absolutely nothing at all in the way to stop them. Nonetheless, this nation is torn asunder by the plague of slavery, which has kept its more affluent southern aristocrats afloat economically for a long time. At this point though, I think most of you know the story of America, so I'll skip to the divergences. There it is, it's Colt. Colt's patent firearms manufacturing industry. To make this company, we need to have 5 arms industries in Connecticut, which Connecticut is terrible to build in, so this is an awful company in theory, but it has access to this prestige good called the Colt Revolvers. And the way the prestige goods work is that once you unlock them, which we'll go over later on, you replace your old small arms good with the Colt Revolvers, and then if you use them for your barracks, you get bonuses. So here we see that if we're using Colt Revolvers, we get 50% more offense and defense and more morale recovery. For some reason, it also applies to the fleets. So I guess your boats are going to be using Colt Revolvers. We're not necessarily going to be using these a lot. I mostly want to export these, and I'll show you how you can actually create a proper export economy in the new system with trade. It's really, really cool. But before we get into all that, first we got to make our company. So we have to make 5, I was going to say explosives, I mean kind of, 5 arms industries over here. They're going to suck, obviously right now, but we'll fix that later. Indeed, the Colt Company is going to be the first major industrial giant of America, and with it, small arms and revolvers will be the first great American export to replace cotton and uproot the entrenched slave economy of the states. Slavery is truly unsavory, but there's something to be said for its economic benefits. There's another sort of slavery that would serve the states better, and that's something which has taken on the name of colonial labor. Indeed, by pitching the idea that overseas workers could work for significantly lower wages, President Andrew Jackson began a movement to put America on the map, quite literally. Now, one thing I'm debating immediately is, do we just go for the classic Opium War play with China? I don't see why not. We'll get the British to help us out. I believe that will still work as it normally does, so we should be able to just go ahead and grab like a treaty port or something. But treaty ports work quite differently now, and I'll explain that in a little while. Andrew Jackson's initial thought behind the colonial labor movement was to provide cheap goods at high profit for the American people, but as the concept passed through the minds of the people, and in particular the southern planters and industrialists, it became clear that these overseas labor forces might allow new companies and industrialists to replace the old guard. So in order to keep prices up, an additional concept was added to this colonial labor concept. With a new supply must come a new demand, and so China came into American sights. And I'm thinking about invading China here. I'm thinking about if we actually do want to do that or not. We have 21 ships, and I think that that is enough that we can probably win. Let's go ahead and just grab some more Lancers real quick. We'll just do some conscription for it. We'll go 10 Lancers, 10 skirmish infantry. That's going to give us pretty good army. And we can just go for the war, I mean, sure. I do think we want to conquer some states so we can get access to, like, silk and things like that. Although I am kind of also interested in this opium in Yunnan. But if we want opium, we can just get it from Sindh. I think that's what we do, is we're going to take Sindh over as well. So let's take off our interest in Oceania. I don't really care for that one. Grab it in Bombay. Now let's declare war on China. We're going to conquer Suzhou. Britain might even do the war for us. Let's see. Probably not. They may have changed how willing Britain is to actually fight Chinese for you, which is sad, but also reasonable. There's some other demands, by the way. We can do a lot of things with this enforced treaty article. One thing, I believe this number is lower than it's supposed to be, but basically you can get in like investment rights for 0.2 infamy, but you can ask for a lot of different things. We're also going to grab a treaty port. Treaty ports are part of treaty articles. So we're going to pick a treaty port, and I think we'll grab one in, like, I don't know, Eastern Guangdong, which is going to be Hong Kong. That sounds good. See, it costs quite a bit of infamy, by the way, 16 infamy. If you ask me, the infamy costs are a little bit too high, but, you know, it is what it is. Because see, we're already up to 44 infamy just for asking for trade privileges, one state, and a treaty port. Let's also maybe ask for some money, get some money transfer. We can get a lot of money. Oh my god, that's a lot. 65,000 for 12 infamy. Now, I really like that you can ask for a different amount, and you see the infamy cost is different. Do we really want to spend 12 infamy on just getting money? I do think we actually want to do that, but we could also ask for an amount that doesn't cost any infamy. So if we were to ask for just like 26k, we could get it for 0.0 infamy. Nah, screw it. Let's do it. 65k off of them. That's a hilarious amount of money. It's kind of insane. And so, war with the Qing dynasty was becoming inevitable, and the Americans were coming in with huge demands. The plan is to grab that treaty port in Hong Kong and evaluate how much demand there might be for goods there, and then to begin production accordingly. You might think that this whole war on China was quite popular, given Andrew Jackson had indeed made it happen, but in classic political swing, he would lose the election to Daniel Webster just as the China War was about to begin. Nonetheless, the Americans couldn't retract their demands without losing face, so it was decided that the war shall go on, even if the people felt they'd prefer a different outcome. Oh, looks like Andrew Jackson died, so now we have Daniel Webster. No, he didn't die, sorry, it's that we got an election. Let's just get rid of Andrew Jackson, if we can, because he's really annoying and terrible. So bye-bye Andrew Jackson. Cool, and we got another Jacksonian Democrat, very cool. But yeah, now we can go for laissez-faire, which I'm just going to go for right away. You might think, how are we going to possibly win this when we have, like, literally only, like, 20 guys? But the answer is that the Chinese have the suffering from opium, or whatever it's called, the widespread opium addiction modifier. So they're very weak, and we can easily take them down. Here we go, we're about to make our landing in Beijing. We're going to increase our military wages before we do this, by the way, because we can. Does the military like me? They don't like me enough, but that's okay. You'll see here that the way that these landings work now is you don't just fight against everyone in the HQ. Your enemy has to actually send an army to this new, like, kind of mini front that is made at the landing. But as you can see, it says we have a low balance, but actually we should win pretty easily, I think. Just purely off of how strong our units are compared to theirs. Yeah, you see here, despite 57 battalions, look at the casualty ratios. You know who's going to win here. And we landed in Beijing, so now it's going to go on the defensive. No need to keep fighting. Literally just defend until we win. We are currently controlling the war goals, so I think we're alright. To appease the doves of America, who were not looking forward to their sons being conscripted out for war, Daniel Webster began an economic reform to bring the nation's prosperity into the hands of whoever could grab it. He stood at the podium and told the people that this war with China is an opportunity for every American to take advantage of new markets. Those with the entrepreneurial spirit to strike while the iron is hot will find that this war is not an economic burden, nor a dump of tax dollars into nothing, but instead the chance of a century to go from nothing to something. Popular support for the American invasion of Beijing surged with Daniel Webster, who quickly steered the conversation away from colonial labor and towards colonial markets. One such strapping entrepreneur was a young man from Connecticut who, in good time, would come to exemplify the optimistic capitalism that will soon grip the United States. So there they are, Colt Patent Firearm Manufacturing Company. We're going to establish this. They get founded in Connecticut, and that's fine. I don't really want to keep them. I don't really want to, like, build up a lot in Connecticut, but the HQ is here. We'll build up the rest of our stuff probably over here in New York. Either way, let's take a look at the company now. This is kind of the big touted feature for me anyway. We see, first of all, there's an executive. This is Walter Longstreet. He's a utopian, apparently. Wow. I'm already getting a hilarious mindset here, thinking about the utopian gun manufacturer guy, who's cruel, by the way. He's utopian, so you see, as an executive, he gives these modifiers. Now, what I believe what happened here is that if his company were owning agricultural buildings, they would give agricultural throughput and agriculture employee mortality. But I think that the guns that we're doing are neither heavy industry nor agriculture, so this won't actually matter very much. But yeah, pretty cool they give personalities to the executives. They don't play a huge role in the game, to be honest with you. The big thing is that whatever IG they are, so in this case Intelligentsia, they're going to give a clout bonus to that IG. So you see here they're giving 5% bonus from Walter Longstreet. Nothing crazy, but it's something. It's something, right? I'm still laughing at Utopian plus Cruel. That's making me laugh quite a bit. The ultimate executive of a gun company. It's like, look, I didn't plan this. I did not make this happen. I did no editing on my save. This just conveniently happened, and it's really funny. He's also from the South, so that's cool. Walter Longstreet, who named the company after his lifelong friend Samuel Colt, smelled that war was in the air for America, and that the army will need guns if they want to win. He started off by making the standard military-grade weapons that the American Army requested, but over time, after talking with his connections in the Army, he became aware of many defects that the standard-issue weapons had. A lot of soldiers wished they had a quick backup weapon, something reliable and flashy that could both boost morale in the field and be effective in combat. Walter knew there would soon be a market for specialized weapons, but he didn't have the funds to possibly invest in research and development for such a concept, let alone actual manufacturing. No. He'll need to find better paying clients than the stingy American government. Alas, Colt Firearms is new on the block and there's little domestic demand. There's also little overseas demand in the world market for guns, but perhaps with a little convincing, Walter can acquire a government charter to give him a state-sanctioned monopoly on gun manufacturing. After all, he's faithfully supplied the military for some time now. These are the charters down here that we're looking at. So these are things like giving out monopolies, we'll talk about these in a minute, things like giving out extra buildings for them to make, so in this case the munition plants, colonization rights. So this is a funny one of my favorite ideas from the dev diaries, is you can send out your industry, your company, to go and colonize a state. I was hoping that I could just grant them land directly and give them control of like a little corner of the world, because I was thinking, what if I made like all of Mexico and Central America controlled by the Colt company? But you can't do that. The way it works instead is you let them colonize an actual state, and then they get control of that state. So it has to be an uncolonized state, and their capital will be there. So I had the idea of like, okay, they get to colonize like Texas, right? And then I grant them control of Mexico using just the regular overlord buttons. And you can do that, but just keep in mind that their capital is going to be in Texas, so you can't get Texas back very easily. Regardless, I need to get some authority so I can actually give out these charters. There's a slight bug in the game right now. In theory, I actually have 4 charters for free available right now, so I can give out 4 charters at no authority cost. But there's a bug in the early access, hopefully it's patched for the release, where I have to actually have 100 authority to even click these, even though they cost no authority to give out. So I'm going to stop suppressing the pro-slavery movement, and I'm going to maybe take off like one of my decrees. Let's just take off like the road maintenance in Pennsylvania. Sure, there we go. And now I should be able to go out and give companies their rights. So first of all, do I want them to be able to make munitions plants? Sure, why not? Let's do that. Do I want to give them monopoly rights? I think so. What this will mean is that private industries, like just the regular financial districts, they are not allowed to build arms industries. Only Colt can build them, so that way we don't get any competition. So we're going to do that. We can also give them control of the munitions plants, but I don't think I want to do that. I think that's fine. We can also give them trade rights, and this allows them to make trade centers. I really like doing this because it basically helps autonomize trade. This company is going to see itself if there's opportunity for trade, and if it sees an opportunity, it will make trade centers for itself, which means it gets to reap the profits on the trade, but it means that you don't have to worry about it. The other one is investment rights, and this one lets them make more HQs. It also lets them contribute to our investment pool more. So this one, let me be totally honest with you, I don't yet completely understand the point of it. The regional HQs, I believe, is more or less so that when they expand it to other parts of the country, they don't have to run everything out of Connecticut. Because, you know, right now, their HQ's in Connecticut, right? There's totally a possibility where this HQ grows to be like 150 size, right? And there may not be enough population here to support 150 size HQ. So with a regional HQ, they can more easily get larger and larger HQs in other parts of the country. So we'll get that too. Now, by that point, we're already using all 4 of our free company charters. So you can see that the way they've set it up, it is actually quite possible to pick and choose your favorite company. Right now, we only have 1 slot, so we only have 1 company to make. But in the future, we're going to have a lot more companies, and we're going to have to worry about who gets the charters and who doesn't. Regardless, the war in China is going just fine over here, as we can see. Walter's plan worked, and he secured a monopoly on small arms manufacturing. Even with a monopoly though, it's a tough business. The military is only hungry for weapons for as long as they have need of them, and after this China war, it's not guaranteed that the American army will stay mobilized. Walter does not have the gravitas with the American political class to possibly cause a war by any means, but perhaps, with the right lobbying, he can convince the government to keep his industry alive with subsidies and subventions. There's surely a global demand for weapons, especially with tension in Europe heating up, and all the Colt company needs is just the right economic conditions to exploit that. The time to enact such a plan came in October of 1838, when the Chinese surrendered, and invoices for Colt firearms stopped coming in from the American government. And there we go, there's the war. So we see that we conquered Suzhou, we got our trade privileges, we'll look at that once we build some trade centers in Hong Kong, we got Hong Kong itself, and we got money transfer. Now, this is a pretty insane thing, this money transfer. That's a lot of money. I'm not sure exactly how to, I'm not sure if the Chinese can maintain this, because I think they're going to go into, like, I think they're going to go into massive debt for this, but one thing I gotta say, the name on this treaty is just amazing. American Qing Treaty of Transit and Friendship. Bro, I'm forcing them to cough up like every penny they have and give me a port and trade nicely with me. But anyway, let's look at Hong Kong now. So we see here that this is a treaty port, and it's marked like this with the treaty port. It allows us to avoid tariffs and subventions and embargoes, just like the original game. But more importantly, we can build the trade centers here. And this little county here, obviously I'm playing too much CK3, this little city here is actually part of the Qing market. We'll look at that in just a second. We're gonna first queue up like 40 of these trade centers because we're gonna do a lot of trading here. Okay, so live recording Tarkus did a very bad job explaining how this treaty port works, so allow me, post-commentary Tarkus, to step in and try to explain it a little better. I want to make sure that two things are known. First, I didn't have a ton of time to play this DLC in early access, since most of the early access patches were way too buggy to play, which means if I get anything wrong about the intricate details of how trade works with a treaty port, I'm sorry. And second, that anything I understand about trade could be changed by the time the DLC comes out, since I played an early access patch. Great. So, Hong Kong, and thus its trade centers, operate in Qing's market, not my market, and that matters, because it means that any goods which arrive in that trade center do not interface with my market. Trade centers conduct trade between the world market and the country market they're in. My trade centers in New York, for example, buy and sell goods to and from the world market at American prices. The trade centers in Hong Kong, despite being owned by me, buy and sell goods using Qing's prices. Nonetheless, I still own the trade center, so either the government or my capitalists, based on ownership of the trade center, make the profits. This is different from old Victoria 3, in that previously, we sold goods from one country market to another via trade routes. Well, now everything I make that I want to sell to Qing has to first go to the world market, then to the Chinese market via Hong Kong. What the treaty port does provide is huge trade advantage. Trade advantage determines essentially who gets first dibs on sell and buy orders. If the Qing market has 1,000 buy orders for a good, but there are 5,000 sell orders on the world market, the nation with a higher trade advantage will take a larger share of those sell orders, helping them to get more of their goods into that market. Treaty ports make you a huge priority in trade, helping you to stop other great powers from stealing away your potential trade for themselves. That's a pretty basic explanation, and I can guarantee it's more complicated than that because world trade is a whole mess of numbers which I have not yet found the time to truly unravel yet. In the future, I'll try to put together some kind of comprehensive trading guide. Regardless, let's get back to the story then, shall we? In an effort to make the Hong Kong port worthwhile, the American government invaded Sindh, which was fine with Walter from Colt, of course, as this means more war and more demand for guns. The Qing market is ripe for opium sales, given their immense demand for the drug, and Sindh, sitting on the extremely fertile Indus River, is the perfect opium farm for the Americans. Alright, let's do our invasion of Sindh. We're gonna use them for opium money, because they're just that good. For our second company, we might even choose to build all the opium in Sindh and then just make like an opium company. Could actually be really smart, to be honest. And then we can ship in that opium to China through our treaty port. Will be insane. We've got joint stock companies, which means we can get another company, which we're going to save that for the opium company, I think, because we're going to make a bunch of opium here in Sindh. And I think there's no special company for it. We're just going to be able to get like a generic opium company, which is fine. In fact, we can actually found it now. But I'm going to wait until we get to the, like, wait till we can maybe found the HQ in Sindh, if possible. I'm going to wait for that. And there's Sindh conquered. Excellent. We'll immediately get on making all this opium. Now you'll notice, by the way, that the construction efficiency is quite low. So that's obviously because of the turmoil, because we just conquered it, and the devastation, of course. But also, all unincorporated states get a massive negative to construction efficiency now, which is really painful. But, you know, it's still pretty worthwhile to build there, I'd say, in most cases, because the opium is just so good. The reason why it's so good is because we actually have two modifiers here. We have the Indus River for the Mappy, which is beautiful. We also have the Indus Valley for 20% throughput. So it's unreasonable to not do this. We're also going to incorporate it, because why not, honestly? And now, there's a symbiotic relationship growing in the industrial sector of America. The opium lords and their need for new markets to sell their liquid happiness to, and the merchants of destruction that provide the tools to access those markets. Their interests go hand in hand. I think I found that opium company now. Are they still going to make it in, hopefully they make it in Sindh. Yeah, they are going to. Perfect, okay. Let's drop that in there. Excellent. And we can add some charters to this company, perhaps. I'm thinking, like, we can give them tobacco as well, but it's okay. We might want to give them a monopoly on opium. The thing is, we're about to get laissez-faire, and laissez-faire makes so you can't have monopolies, so it doesn't really matter anyway. We'll just let them chill, I guess. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually mark these opium with a huge tariff for importing, so that way people can't sell us opium very easily, and a huge subvention for exporting. My goal here is to just get a lot of opium out there into the world, and then we make a lot of money on these plantations, or rather our company does, and the company pays us a form of reinvestment. You see, we still have a bunch of reinvestment piling up, despite the fact that we already have like over 200 construction points. So, you know, this could be a bit of a waste, but we'll see. I think it'll be hype either way. Wow, they immediately bought like all of it. That was kind of crazy. That was crazy to watch in real time. The one thing you'll notice is that we're not actually exporting any of this opium right now. You might be wondering, like, why? We're making all this opium. It's in the market. It should be working, right? It's because there's no trade centers here. So this opium can't make it to anywhere else. If I'm understanding correctly, I believe that's how it's working. So we're going to actually prioritize real quick a couple of trade centers in Sindh so that we can get the trading going. And it should be able to then send this opium out to Hong Kong and then into China, and that's going to go really hard for us. So this system is a little bit weird. That opium is able to use its port connection to sell opium to the American market, which means opium can be bought in, say, New York, Louisiana, Suzhou, pretty much anywhere that's connected to the American market, distinctly not Hong Kong because it's part of the Qing market. They use the traditional convoy port connections to do that, but opium cannot be sold on the world market via convoys. World market trades only happen at trade centers. What that means is that opium can, in theory, be sold from Sindh to a trade center in New York and then exported to the world market, but we're taking mappy hits when we do that, so it's inefficient. Instead, we like to sell it directly from Sindh onto the world market. Hence, we will be making trade centers in Sindh. So we can see here that my guns are unfortunately not very good in price. They're a bit cheap, and it's making my company not do very well. So to fix that, I'm going to put a huge tariff on imports. I'm going to put a huge subvention on exports. And let's watch the price change by doing this. Because the trade centers are going to see that, oh, we can actually export this stuff now because of subvention, and look at the way the profits change. Now, this is actually kind of a bad idea, because first of all, I'm paying for the guns. So them being more expensive kind of sucks for me because it's my army's paying the cost, right? But second of all, I'm paying the subventions. And there's a lot of subventions going on here. We're paying 10,000 in subventions in small arms, 30,000 in subventions in opium. So one thing this patch has really done, this DLC in general, is given you a lot of wiggle room with regards to how you want to use your government money. If you want to, you can put all your government money into just influencing trade and influencing the market, or you can let it be and just do whatever you want. But I want these guns to be expensive. I want them to go around the world. So I'm going to be putting a lot of money into them. We're almost at 100% prosperity on our plantation company, which is great. Because once we get there, we can start getting our prestige good, the pure opium, and I'll show you what that's all about in a moment. We're also working getting our Colt revolvers too. We're almost at 100. We need to do a little more stuff here to get more prosperity. Thankfully, with the way prosperity has been changed, it's a lot easier to get prosperity. So productivity is one thing. You can also just have staffed buildings. So it's like, as long as your company is big, it eventually becomes too big to fail, which I know is a meme, but in this game it's real, so that's cool. Also, I think did we pass laissez-faire? We did, okay, cool. So now we can't do monopolies anymore, which frees up a couple slots for us, which means I can go here and I can give these guys their rights. We need the authority to do that. Okay, well, let's quickly take off a decree. So I'm gonna give the plantation, see, I can't give them monopolies because I have laissez-faire. But instead, I could give them control of tobacco plantations, but I don't really want them to have that, to be honest. I'll give them trade rights. I'll give them investment rights. That sounds good. And then that's all my slots, right? Yes, it is. So we could do more. The way it works now is we can do more, but it will cost us 100 authority per extra charter that we give. I don't want to give up the authority, so we won't. Looks like we are slowly gaining employees here. Probably as we get qualifications for clerks, we are able to fill up more and more employment here. And you see that if only we had more employment here, we'd be getting even more trade going on. But if we're low in employment, then we get less trade capacity. But it's all just opium coming in. And in terms of like reading this, like figuring out, oh, by the way, sorry, I was about to talk about mechanics, but then I saw that the Colt firearm company owns like half of the trade port here. So like the opium company, so in terms of what's happening here, the opium is being traded through this trade center, which is owned mostly by private investors in America. And they're just paying for the cost of the merchant marine, which is the ships, basically the shipping, to send the opium out to Hong Kong and other places, but mostly Hong Kong, okay? And then the Colt Firearms company is buying the opium and then selling it to the Chinese for a profit. That to me is just really, really funny. I don't know what to say. It's just really funny. We are also now doing the pure opium journal entry. I totally didn't even notice it here, but basically we have to keep the prosperity on our plantation at or equal to 100. This is actually a lie. I already reported this as a bug to the developers. It means you have to keep the prosperity bonus, which means you have to have 75 prosperity or higher. So it's okay to fluctuate a little bit. It should still be okay. We maintain this for 3 years, and then all the opium produced by our company is going to become pure opium. And we'll look at exactly what that entails once they actually get the prestige good. The seas between Sindh and Hong Kong are dangerous, and rather than risk their highly valuable cargo going to the bottom of the sea, the American plantation company contracted out the Colt Firearm Company to arm their ships with the weaponry that had served the American military recently. Walter Longstreet, savvy businessman that he is, did not ask that Colt be paid in actual money, but instead wanted a slice of the profits on all the opium arriving in Hong Kong, which the plantation company was happy to oblige. Both parties benefit, and critically, Colt gets to have their weapons advertised on trade ships that will likely travel across the world to deliver their illicit goods. The beginnings of a great marketing campaign are on, while the opium finds safe passage thanks to their Colt firearms. Anyway, now that we've got our company set up here with the Colt and the plantations, we're gonna, I think, focus on playing the game relatively normally now, which means it's time for just iron and coal is basically all we're gonna be building at this point. So let's just do that. We're gonna need railways, we're gonna need, just all the basic stuff. This is kind of like a meme build. Oh, the opium is actually pretty good, but the Colt, I'm not sure how useful that's gonna be, but that's okay. We're here for the fun, we're here for the memes. Indeed, my goal here is not to just meme and throw the game away, so yeah, I'll be playing some pretty standard Victoria 3 alongside this weird guns, drugs, and steel build. Victoria 3 has been changed by this DLC for sure, but the old heuristics still very much so apply. Iron, coal, steel, and tools are an insanely powerful industrial loop which will launch your nation into the stratosphere economy-wise. That means that from here, you'll be seeing a little more standard Victoria 3 gameplay. Looks like over in Sindh we can actually make even more trade centers because there's enough people who apparently have enough qualifications to do it, and there's just more trade capacity. The sort of heuristic I've been using so far is just, if it's full on trade capacity, that means you have more space for trade, so make more trade centers. That's all I've been doing basically. You can also let the AI just build them, because obviously our private sector will build them, but I literally just, like, if I see it's full, I build more. That's like my entire mindset. Let's get another like 20 of these, sure, that sounds good. This pharmaceutical is meaning we can get public healthcare, which I'm always down for. There it is. Basically only the evangelicals want it, but that's okay. Should be pretty easy to pass because the industrialists are really happy with me, so they're not going to oppose it, which is great. So yeah, it seems like the diplomatic pact from Qing is not going away. We're still getting their money. So fine with me, obviously. I mean, we love having the extra cash, but it's probably not meant to work this way. It's probably not meant to be doing this. Now we're kind of hitting our employment limit here on the trade center, which sucks a little bit. We also are having an issue with infrastructure. So maybe we build another port, because ports do give a little bit of infrastructure, not a ton, but just a little bit. Then we'll build 2 more ports here. The merchant marine will also make our trades in general just more profitable, because it'll reduce the input costs on our trade centers. As the American plantation company has been getting better and better at farming opium, they've maintained their prosperity, and as such, it was in May of 1846 that the farming techniques in Sindh paid off. The opium there is of much higher grade than any other on the market, and in terms of what this means, pure opium will provide a trade advantage to any route that uses it in place of regular opium, and when pops buy it, they'll be purchasing more of it every time they do buy it. Again, haven't had the time to do significant deep dives into the way most of this stuff works, since most of the early access builds we got were quite broken, but this is at least in theory what it does. So there's pure opium, so we did it. If you look over here now, this build is going to be making pure opium, and the profits should go up pretty significantly. The problem is right now that we just can't ship all this opium around in terms of like how much shipping we need to do all of this, but it is what it is. We should also get the Colt revolver one pretty soon too. I think that one should already be good to go. Let's see. Yeah, are they already producing them? Looks like they already have it. Oh, okay. Maybe that event triggered for both of them because it's like bugged or something. Let's see, are they actually making Colt firearms? They are. Okay, so we have them. So we should see then that these revolvers will give us bonus damage in our barracks. So if you look at, like, I don't know, for example, this barracks here, we should be seeing that because they're using the Colt revolvers, they get more damage. Yeah, 10% from supplied with prestige goods, you see here. So 10% from the prosperity bonus on Colt, and then 10% from supplying with prestige goods. Pretty good, man. Pretty damn good. We love to see it. Anyway, from here, I think, yeah, like I said before, we're going to focus on sort of building a more standard economy. For our next company, not sure what we'll actually pick, but we'll find out, I guess. Finally, executive Walter Longstreet, thanks to his lucrative deal with the American Plantation Company, was able to prototype and mass-produce the Colt revolver, again named after his friend Samuel Colt. As the quality of the opium rises, so too do the profits, and along with those profits do the payments for Colt's protection rise. Across the world, trade ships bearing crates of intoxicating opium sail the seas, with American veterans looking for any kind of work brandishing Colt revolvers to keep the shipping lanes safe. It's a beautiful symbiosis, and one with great benefit to America's role in the world market. Unfortunately, these massive profits for Colt and the Plantation Company cannot be maintained, as they've been, shall we say, inflated by the American government's patronage. Spending £100,000 on subventions for opium and small arms. I probably can't sustain that, but to be honest with you, here's the thing. We did that because it gave us so much prosperity that we got our prestige goods. We could now turn off the subventions and see how it goes. So let's try. Let's reduce the subventions down to maybe 12.5% instead, and let's see how much this affects things. I think we'll still be okay, but you know, we'll find out, I guess. We could even start putting tariffs on it. We'd make huge money, but we'll see if they still make a lot of profits. It can definitely be a good idea to kind of just like pump money into a company so that they get really prosperous and then they get too big to fail, like I mentioned. Because we could even we really could throw on some tariffs and see if that gets us a huge income. Interesting, so because we're subsidizing the trade centers, we kind of ended up paying the subventions through subsidies anyway, but not a ton though, so it's okay. Our income is improving now, as we see, which is cool. Even then, interest rate is currently at 3.9%. I'm not too worried about having to pay for, you know, interest on loans and stuff. In order to counteract the lost profits from the subventions being reduced, the Americans went for another opium plantation to farm in Vietnam. Now look, of course I'm invading Vietnam because, you know, America and Vietnam have a history, but I promise this is actually a play to try and show you guys more mechanics, such as how companies interact with subjects, because I will soon witness an interesting moment with regional HQs and subjects. Let's see if we can attack Vietnam. That sounds good to me. So I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to make a protectorate on Vietnam. That's going to call in probably Burma, Cambodia, and Selangor. That's totally fine. Protectorate on Vietnam. And then I'm going to make a treaty with them. I want to get monopoly rights, or maybe I can't do that because I have laissez-faire. Can I though? I think, okay, I can actually. I want to monopolize their opium is what I want to do. So that way they can't build it, only my company can build it. So let's do that. And I also want all their money if we can get it. Depends how much money they want to give me, actually. If they don't want to give me any money, then who cares, but how much can I get out of them? 3k. I mean, we'll take whatever the free amount is for like 0 infamy. Like, do like 2k for 3 infamy, sure. 2k gold. And then regime change? What would that make them? A republic with elections? That's cute. Why not? You know, we're spreading some freedom. What can I say? Now, can we actually even defeat Vietnam? I think so. They only have 11 defense, whereas we've got quite a bit more offense than that. I think we'll be okay. Looks like the EIC's having their rebellion. I think, like usual, I don't think anything's changed about this from previous patches, so, like usual, Hindustan will kind of have, like, pretty good going, you know, right at the beginning, and then get crushed by Britain later. So, you know, don't worry about this. They'll figure it out.
Anyway, we made it into Vietnam here. We're just going to defend at this point. No need to push in more. And we'll just wait till we win. We have the capital, so we just win. We just eventually win if we wait. Looks like we finally actually are reaching an appropriate trade capacity, so let's actually not build all these extra trade centers then. Because it looks like we are not capped out. So I'm going to stop building there. We see that they actually have a negative balance. We took off our subventions, but we're subsidizing it, so it's fine. We're just hoping that over time, this opium will continue to get better and better pricing, and they'll do better. We do have the maximum opium we can build here. We could, I guess, nationalize these and destroy them. And honestly, okay, sure, like, you know, this stuff is crap. Never mind, we're laissez-faire, so actually we can't. But never mind, that's just the most opium we're going to get there that we can. We can get more opium from places like Afghanistan, maybe. We can go for that. Got a new president, Simon Rawlins. Cool. He's honorable and a political operator. Seems legit. We just got free trade. So this is going to... I think it doesn't actually change how much we can do subventions, but it just changes how much we can import and export. If we look... I think it's that... Okay, interesting. So we can't do... So we can't do tariffs, although this apparently is tariffed already. I guess once it's tariffed once, you can't untariff it. Interesting. Yeah, okay. So we can only do subventions now. We can't do tariffs, which is fine. There's the end of the war. We now have Vietnam in our market, which is great. Also, freedom, equality, and brotherhood. We're just so democratic and nice.
That interesting moment with HQs that I mentioned, I have learned, is indeed fixed for the public release of the DLC, by the way, but I'll show once it comes up because it's a funny little thing. But basically, HQs used to kind of teleport, and my main Opium HQ in Sindh somehow teleported to An Nam. That matters because that meant that the HQ was controlled by Vietnamese pops, hence Vietnam got all the reinvestment from that company. It was easily resolved by just annexing Vietnam, which I later did. To be extra clear though, I do believe that issue has been patched for release. Anyway, for the most part, my ambitions in Asia will mostly calm down here as we refocus on the Americas and the all-important issue of Manifest Destiny. That being said, I have one more thing to mention, which is that the extremely keen viewer will have noticed that my infamy keeps on going down faster than it should. This is not a bug or a cheat or anything. It's a pretty cool little event that is firing for the nations to whom I export guns. You may have, on occasion, gotten an event where your people complain about importing foreign guns, and one of the options is to keep the trade going and reduce the infamy of the nation you're importing guns from by 5. Now, I've been exporting Colt revolvers to most of the world through my subventions, so that makes that event quite likely to fire at least somewhere in the world. Because of how widespread your gun trade can be now, you can actually keep your infamy super low by exporting guns around the world. Counterintuitive, I know, but, you know, useful. Anyway, this shift away from Asian imperialism to Manifest Destiny will see a larger focus on industries in America, whether it be iron, coal, food, clothes, or just guns. America is about to rapidly de-peasant.
We're gonna build up a crap ton of trade centers in New York now, and we're gonna start making our arms industries up here. We've set up a pretty good set of industries. We're working on the tools and the steel right now. We're working on the iron, but we're gonna start making just a bunch of arms industries and just sending guns all over the world. See how it goes. In the meantime, we could go for our Manifest Destiny against Mexico, and looks like Britain would even probably help us, maybe, although they might help Mexico instead. They're almost willing to accept an alliance, they just want them to sweeten the deal. How about an embassy? It gives them a 5% chance of accepting. Okay. How about, like, no tariffs on, I don't know, how about, like, no tariffs on opium? Right, we have free trades, we can't even do that. We could give them a monopoly on something, but I don't really want to do that. Give them like a furniture monopoly, that's kind of funny, but no, I don't think so. They want to give you military assistance. Seems like they want to do this, so sure. 90% chance to accept, okay. They want to help me. I guess because they want the experience gain is why, but sure, I'll take that. That's quite nice, actually.
I'm adding a quick note here to talk about treaties. So this is awkward because I'm sponsored by Paradox for this video, but the frank truth is that treaties in the early access patches that I got to play were basically completely broken. For that reason, I'm mostly not showing them, but for at least some transparency here for my dear viewers, I have very little to show you with regards to treaties because they're just so broken, and I mostly avoided them lest they waste my time. From what I understand, at least some of the outstanding bugs on treaties have been or are being patched for the release version. I'm just going to say here though, that you have been warned, and that this video will likely entirely fail to give you any kind of insight into treaties beyond the very basics. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled Conquest of Mexico.
Again, Mexico is going to fold quite easily against my army, given how powerful I am, so I'm not too worried about anything. Got a new tech for sewing machines, and we'll of course use those. We can see, by the way, the new frontline system at play here, although it's kind of been borked by this now, but you saw earlier how despite this massive front line, it was still only one front. Now there's two, so I'm not sure exactly why this became its own front. But basically, they made it so that fronts are a little bit less finicky, although still finicky, of course. I would appreciate if one day they just kind of completely overhauled how fronts work in general, but it is what it is. Better than nothing to see a little bit of change. Because we still see some front spaghetti here. It's not like the spaghetti's gone. Merely been slightly altered, I guess you could say. I'm gonna get secret police next, and this is because with secret police it becomes much easier to ban slavery. It's also just a really good law in general, but being able to get rid of slavery without a civil war is really nice. We'll go for that. Anyway, there's the new borders, although... What the heck happened here?
Navajo's conquest here is actually not a bug. It's about how the AI capitulates wars. Mexico was in a war with Navajo while I was fighting them, and since I was so dominant in the war, I was able to occupy all of Mexico very quickly. When you 100% occupy a nation, they capitulate all their wars, and that can be awkward if there are wars with overlapping war goals. All that happened here is that Mexico capitulated to the Navajo before capitulating to me, so they gave those states away to them first, which invalidated my war goals, and then they capitulated to me. The solution to this is to go back in autosaver to, and just not 100% occupy Mexico so that they don't capitulate, and instead run them down to a -100 war support, at which point they capitulate only to me. Looks like my income from China is gone now. I don't know why exactly it's gone. Like, I'm not sure. What I mean is, it should be gone because the treaty has been long done, but I'm not sure like what exactly happened to make it go away by this point, but cool with me. I rightfully should not have it. We can see here as well, my Opium Company has made a regional HQ over in Tonkin, which is good, very good, because we were having trouble with employment up here, I think, right? Yeah, see, we actually still are having trouble with employment. So it's good to see, also, why did this get built? Get out of here. It's good to see the regional HQ here providing an alternative way to get some ownership class going in our Opium Company. So that's good. Who are the capitalists? Are they actually Vietnamese? Yeah, they are. So this is actually an interesting reason why you might want to make a protectorate, is because now they're actually accepted so they can become capitalists, which means, I think, that these capitalists are contribute to the investment pool in Vietnam. Very interesting. We might actually be really spicing up Vietnam's gameplay right now by doing this for them, because the ownership here is local. So that's really interesting, yeah. This company, just putting an American company, is going to have Vietnamese capitalists making its money. Not that I have a problem with that, but in theory it's suboptimal, because it means that I'm going to get less reinvestment. But oh well. I'm actually unsure whether or not this is an intended outcome. My company now has Vietnamese shareholders, in essence, who are running operations in Vietnam. That means the money is going to Vietnamese pops who will invest in Vietnamese states, and in many ways I have no problem with that because Vietnam will invest the money into buildings that contribute to my market, and any extra taxes they make I'll be getting some of once they become my puppet. Even if it's suboptimal, I do enjoy the company becoming an entrenched institution even in other countries. It's nice for world building and for a non-mechanical representation of my company's influence, but yeah, pure numbers wise, it's bad. I want to take a look at the world market if we can. I want to see, like, yeah, let's click on this and just take a look at like everything that's being made. So this is just everything in the world market. To explain quickly what this exactly means, every good that's created which is sent to like one of these world market access ports, like in say New York or in Sindh or even in Hong Kong, I think there should be one. Looks like no, because right, it's part of the Chinese market, but basically, like, we have all these like world market hubs, and goods get sent out to the world market through this, and they have market access just like any other state would. In this case, 100%, so everything has the same price. If we look around, if we look at like the amount of opium on the market, if you click on this, this is opium on the world market. We can see who makes the most of it, I think. So by exports, right? I export pretty much all the opium in the game, which is crazy because why aren't the British exporting any? It's weird. By pure opium, I believe I'm the only person that's exporting it. But yeah, oh, it is the same good. Okay, I see. But yeah, obviously I'm the one exporting the most, but I'm surprised the British aren't exporting any. The Chinese are importing the most. And then this impact advantage, I'm not sure what this exactly is, to be honest with you. Let's not worry about that. What about something like guns? Am I also doing the most of that? I'm the only one exporting guns to the world market. Again, I don't... How is that possible? I didn't think that would even be possible, but yeah, most of them are going to Qing, though, funnily enough. So right now, we're supplying the world with opium and guns, which I'm sure the world is happy to have. If you look at the overall participants tab, we see that I am the biggest importer and the biggest exporter.
So yeah, opium is doing really well. I think we're exporting we're exporting about twice as much as we're importing, and this is our trade deficit or surplus. So obviously we have a pretty big trade surplus because we're exporting so much more than we're importing. But the British have an even bigger one. Cool. Who has the biggest one? Yeah, the British, then Russians. Okay, I see.
A big part of why I dominate world trade so much is simply that I'm subsidizing my trade centers. A lot of my trades wouldn't be profitable otherwise, but the subsidies keep the trade centers able to do as much trade as possible. A big reason why so much of the opium is going to the world market is that opium is consumed by pops as an intoxicant, and I just don't have enough population to make enough demand for the opium that it would possibly stay profitable, so to make up for that lack of domestic consumption, the opium is going to the world market. It could be that the British have a large amount of opium consumption in their market thanks to India, and that's why they're not exporting, but it's hard to say. Again, I didn't get a huge amount of time with the early access patch, so I didn't have time to deeply dive into this stuff.
So by the way, there's a cool company in here, in this list somewhere, if I can find it. Here it is, Panama Canal Company. So this company, when it's prosperous, gives you another company. So it's pretty much just free money if we can get it to be prosperous. So I'm thinking, let's go and conquer Panama and make the Panama Canal Company with the next company and then make another company after that. We don't have to really give them any charters, so you don't have to worry about charters limit or anything like that, but it'll be a nice free company to be honest, so let's go for it. We'll have to make the Panama Canal, but that's no big deal, right? No one's gonna defend these guys. They might even give it to me for free. Let's see. They do not. That's okay. In return, protectorate, sure. And then maybe we can take their money. That's not worth it. Never mind. Here goes the war. We're gonna go for Panama here, like I said. Should be a pretty easy clap. I don't imagine they're gonna put up any kind of reasonable defense against me, but I guess we'll find out once we land. There's Secret Police, by the way. We just got it. I kind of clicked through it really fast so you didn't see it, but there it is. So we could start suppressing the slavery movement, and we need some authority for that, so let's take off some decrees. That's okay. Let's maybe get rid of, like, these... those are really good. Get rid of these, like, road maintenance, I guess. Sure. And then let's start suppressing the slavery movement. That should get their support below 5%. Yeah, it will, quite easily. We have enough infrastructure over here, though, now. We have a little bit... We're missing a little bit, so let's just get, like, one more port here. Cool. And then how about in Connecticut? Yeah, we're good. Okay, we're fine in Connecticut. Alright, we can end the war. I added Liberate Amazonia as a way to get them to not back down, because it costs something for me to add, but I don't actually want to do that. So we're going to not ask for Amazonia, and we're just going to end the war with these two war goals. Excellent, okay. Then you shoot my subject, it's perfect, and we have control of Panama. So we're going to incorporate it, and then we also want to try to survey the Panama Isthmus, which we need civilizing mission to be able to do. Okay, cool. We'll get on that. We could also go for the Suez, because there's also a Suez company that does the same thing, where it also gives you another company slot. So how about we go for that too? Yeah, this should be an easy war. Russia might join against us, but if they do, we just call on Britain to help. Not a big deal. I think I will grab maybe Lower Egypt as well, because it is nice to have that, and yeah, that's okay. Lower Egypt and Matru. Let's make it like a nice coastline that we control. I like that. Even though this place is pretty much completely useless, just there for the aesthetics. This place is quite good. You have opium here as well. And then, of course, you want this for the canal. War has begun. A naval invade immediately into... I guess we can start with Egypt and work our way into the Ottomans later. I'm going to go to Eritrea. Because I don't know why not. It'll be less defended, probably. And I'm kind of just hoping that the British will handle this whole war, like the rest of the, you know, heavy lifting. It looks like we've got the upper hand against the Ottomans after defending for a while, so let's go ahead and swap over to Advanced Front now. And let's just wait and see if we win. Once we actually reach Lower Egypt, I'm thinking that we also will, like, abandon this front and just go over to the Ottoman capital in Constantinople. Because, like, we could push all the way up through Syria, but it'll take forever. So if we can, we take over Lower Egypt, that starts ticking all of the Egyptian war goals. Then we go over to Constantinople, we start ticking all of the Ottoman war goals. That'd be optimal. But we'll see. We nearly landed. Constantinople. There it is, I think we've landed. Okay, they should be ticking out now. Excellent. We can get everything we want. Okay, there it is. Peace deal. Very nice. Now we have all this land here. Plus release Syria. Which is nice. Apparently they have like the same color as the Ottomans, but they are not a subject. Feels good, man. Now we have these extra treaties. The Agreement between the United States of America and Ottoman Empire, very simple name. And the Washington Declaration. Again, these are literally just money grabs, but cool. So to survey the Suez Isthmus, we're going to need a lot more bureaucracy, so we're just going to wait till we build up more of that. I already queued up a bunch of it at the bottom of my list here. So in a couple years, we'll complete our current queue, we'll do all the government administration, and then we'll grab the Suez Canal.
Throughout the war in the Middle East, the government has used the war as a distraction from the fact that slavery was finally on the chopping block. The American secret police have been working hard to hunt down slavery proponents and silence them by any means. The entire institution of slavery has been losing ground to the old colonial labor concept that kicked off the entire American empire in Asia anyway, so most of the slavers simply adapted to the new market situation and purchased plantations off in Vietnam, Sindh, or Egypt. The final nail in the coffin for the slavers was the election of Samuel of Warnard, a tactful abolitionist who was perfect for achieving a peaceful end to slavery.
Here's the moment of truth. We only have 1 month left on being able to ban slavery, and the law is about to pass here in 10 days. If it passes, we're good. If not, then oh no, we're going to fail the petition, but it is what it is. It did pass, so we're good. Very nice.
A triumph of American democracy. Slavery is banned, and without any hostilities between North and South. Soon will begin the peculiar reconciliation as America steams hard into the industrial age. With a GDP of almost £85 million in 1857, we managed to accomplish quite a bit in just 21 years of game time. Overall, the ability to extract money from Qing and for world trade to create immense demand for your goods means that the game is much faster paced for the great powers, and GDP numbers in general tend to be higher earlier. World trade has essentially made everyone's economies more efficient, and you'll see that reflected in the GDP numbers across the board.
GDP has been growing pretty steadily. I'm quite happy with it. 88 million in 1858 is not bad. I will say though, there's a little bit of a bug in the game right now. I'll show it in a second. Right now, in the private construction queue, all buildings, whether they're being built by a company or not, get the company construction bonus for some reason. So this is obviously massively increasing how quickly my land is building up its, GDP. So, it's kind of like an illegitimate 90 million GDP by 1859 kind of thing. But, it's, I still feel proud of it, okay? Let me feel proud. It's for the memes. I just feel like it. There's the Frontier Wars, Star Destiny, and now we have truly all of the land that we want, although we could, of course, start incorporating it. We don't have the bureaucracy for it. But, we'll get there. Give it time. In fact, I think I'm going to prioritize government administrations, put them first, because they're pretty fast to build. And we need it for the canals, so let's do these.
Anyway, from here, there is more to this campaign, but you know what? I'm feeling kind of greedy. I'm going to cut the video here and release the second episode of the American campaign for guns, drugs, and steel tomorrow. You see, we haven't even gotten to the steel part of this campaign yet, but trust me, once Carnegie Steel enters the ring, our GDP will sail to immense new heights. What I'm hoping for from this video is that you have something of an idea of how companies and world trade have changed the game. I couldn't dive too deeply into the mechanics on account of a lack of time, but you can certainly expect a review with more details on the topic soon. Optimally, maybe even on the same day as this very video, but more likely it'll be a day or two later. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, and you can expect the sequels to come soon, where we'll be creating canals and further industrializing. Thank you for your time.